So, a very good evening to everyone present here. Yesterday, we have done so many control statements, jump statements, and today we are ready with our next unit, which is a particular related to the function. We have storage classes as well. So, I hope you all are ready with the very next topic, and let's get started with the same. And I think I've also given you one question of the star pattern that we will going to take at the end or probably in the next class. Today we are get started with this next topic, that is storage classes, and we have is functions, how to declare the function, how to initialize a function, right? So let's start with first storage classes, as it is very important to know about what are the types of storage classes and the scope of these classes. And after this, we are going to start with the functions, right? So let's start with the storage classes. So storage classes basically denotes two particular a keyword, which is like we have four, that is auto, register, extern, static. So these we have four types of storage classes, and they are having their own scope in the loops, or whether they are outside the loop, whether they are like till the end of the program it will going to work. So these classes are basically performed in the loops only. We come to know their work inside the loops, right? So like here we have first is auto. Declaration, if we are talking about in terms of declaration, that is inside a function or a block. We are going to declare a particular variable having some storage class that is of auto type, and that is going to be declared inside a function or any kind of block, or we can say loop. Its storage is memory, like the variable which is of auto storage class type, that will going to be stored into a particular memory of your device. But if we are talking about or differentiate in between register, extern, static, so like register is going to store in the CPU registers memory. Like it's not going to in the ROM. It is just directly stored into the CPU register storage. So that is the basically difference in auto and register. Like if you're talking about auto and register, there is just the storage part difference. If you're talking about auto, like declaration, okay, inside a function or a block, storage is about memory, default initial value, which is unpredictable. Like if I'm talking ki I'm just declaring any particular variable with auto. So the initial value, ki if I'm not initializing any value to any variable, so like I'm used to say ki that would be default by default 0. But in auto case, that is unpredictable. That means depends upon compiler what it will give to that variable, the value what it will give. So that is unpredictable. So that is the meaning of default initial value. If we are not giving any initialization to any variable, then it will going to take any random value, or we can say unpredictable, right? Then come to the scope part. The scope of this auto variable, which is just within the function or a block. You come to know the meaning of these things: scope, what is lifetime. That you will come to know while we are doing or dealing with the functions, while we are doing these experiments in the program. If we are initialize any a value with my 5 value, I'm initializing my a. But if I'm going into block or into any function, that will not give me 5 value if I'm going to print. So these experiments we are going to do in our compiler. So first you have to just make it remember as a theory part, and also as per the MCQ part point of view, these are important to learn these things. What is the lifetime of auto, lifetime scope of auto, right? Auto basically a keyword which is defined in your header file, in that stdio.h header file, and also it is having it is defined in those 32 keywords, right? So auto is one of them, register is one of them, extern, similarly static is one of them. So come to register part. As I said, key only in terms of storage there is a difference in auto storage class and register storage class. And this difference key denote kya karta hai, what this difference makes in the program. It's a huge difference if we are talking in auto and register. It is the a very bit point difference, that is like it is going to store in memory, and it is register variable is going to store in cpu registers. But the difference only is ki if you declare any variable with register auto class, that will execute it fast, right? This is the only difference. But as per the program, if we are doing program by declaring register or by declaring auto, that will not going to show any difference. That is only the टाइम कि टाइमिंग कितना लगा प्रोग्राम को एग्जीक्यूट करने में, उसको कंपाइल करने में. सो देयर वी कैन सी द डिफरेंस, द टाइम एग्जीक्यूशन. नाउ कम टू एक्सटर्न. एक्सटर्न क्या कहता है कि डिक्लेरेशन आउटसाइड ऑल फंक्शन. कि इफ वी आर टॉकिंग कि ओके आई एम इनिशियलाइजिंग माई ए वैल्यू विथ 5. So if I'm going into any particular loop, that a value is a constant. We can't change its value. That means ki if we are going into another loop, that value remains same. That is 5. If we print that a value inside the loop, outside the loop, outside this function, inside this function, that will stay same. If we are going to print my a value. But in case of auto and in case of register, that will not going to show the same value, as the scope of this is inside the block only. So if we are going out of the block and then print the value of that variable, that will not showing you the same value, or else it will show you some random value. Also it will show some any other value. Like for an example, if you're initializing your a value with 5 outside the block, but if you are come into the I'm talking about for loop. So if you are going into the for loop and then you are initializing your a value with 10, so inside function it will print you 10 as an a value. But if you are come out of the loop, that will print the value as 5, as you have initialized your a value outside the loop as 5. So it is completely depends upon the scope, कि ऑटो का स्कोप रहता है विद इन द फंक्शन, बट एक्सटर्न का रहेगा एंटायर द फाइल एंड अदर फाइल्स वेयर द वेरिएबल इज डिक्लेयर्ड एज एक्सटर्न. So we can say a type of global scope, like static have global scope. So if you're entering into any loop or if you're going jump over the loop, that will not affect your variable's value, that will remain the same. That is the point. Also, like initial value in auto and register returns the garbage value if you have not initialized yet. Auto returns any unpredictable, any random value, or we can't say कि कौन सी value print करेगा, it depends upon the compiler. Then extern returns 0 only. By default it is 0. And for the static also it will return 0 only. And if you are talking about storage part, for auto, for extern, for static, it is memory. The variable is going to store in the memory only, but for the register it will going to store into CPU registers. So I think I'm talking about these storage classes. So I hope कि learn भी साथ साथ हो गया होगा कि just register में difference होता है storage की terms में, and static और extern होता है global scope होता है उनका. Outside all function का scope कर सकते हैं, value remains same. And lifetime, if we are talking about, that is completely related to the scope कि program run time, कि जब तक program complete नहीं हो जाता उस वेरिएबल का स्कोप या कह सकते हैं लाइफ टाइम एंड नहीं होगा. बट इन ऑटो एंड रजिस्टर जैसे ही फंक्शन खत्म हुआ वैसे ही वेरिएबल का भी लाइफ खत्म हो गई. दैट इज द पॉइंट कि विद इन द फंक्शन और अ ब्लॉक उसका लाइफ रहता है वेरिएबल का. Now if we are going deep into auto storage class, this is the default storage class for all the variables declared inside a function or a block. If we are going to declare any kind of variable inside a function or a block, that will return us like it's a default storage class. That means if we haven't declared any variable with my any class, that means by default it will taken, it will take as an auto, that variable having auto storage class. Now it can be only accessed within the function block they have been declared and not outside them, which defines their scope. Exactly. They has to be like declared only inside the function or a block. बाहर करेंगे तो उसका स्कोप खत्म हो जाएगा, फंक्शन के अंदर वो अनडिक्लेयर उसे फील कराएगा कि ये ए कहाँ से आ गया, बिकॉज वी हैव डिक्लेयर्ड आउटसाइड, सो वी हैव टू declare that in only the block or the function. Of course, these can be accessed within nested blocks within the parent block function in which the auto variable was declared. Yes, if we are talking about nested blocks, like there is a for loop and nested for loops are there. So there we can access our variable which having auto storage class. Now come to this line. However, they can be accessed outside their scope as well using the concept of pointers. Yes, it is very important. If anyone asks you ki, yes, ki, do you know ki how to access that variable which having auto storage class, but I want to access that variable outside that block. Scope तो उसका function में complete हो जाता है. So how can we access? That is using the concept of pointers. Pointers basically a kind of, we can say, a variable हम इसे कह सकते हैं, which is going to store the address. I'm repeating, which is going to store the address of a particular variable. So there is something difference in variable, simple variable and pointers. As variable is going to store the value of what? जो वैल्यू हमने वेरिएबल में रखी है, जस्ट वैल्यू को वो एक्सेस करता है वेरिएबल, बट पॉइंटर उस वैल्यू को एक्सेस नहीं कर रहा. पॉइंटर, इफ वी आर जस्ट नॉर्मली टॉकिंग अबाउट पॉइंटर, पॉइंटर जस्ट एक्सेस कर रहा है उस वैल्यू जो जहाँ रखी है उसके एड्रेस को, राइट. So that is the difference in pointers and normal variables. Then it is pointing key, we can access that variable as well which having auto storage class by the help of pointer, by the concept of pointers. Then they are assigned a garbage value by default whenever they are declared. Yes, if you're talking about key given here by pointing to the very exact memory location. Yes, so if you're talking about key pointer हमने just declare किया है but उसे assign नहीं करा कोई भी variable का address, so that time the pointer will show the garbage value. So now come to the this question which is related to the auto storage class. So you can check here, like I have started this main function body which ended here, and here the scope you can easily look forward towards screen. That is ki I am initialized my j with 1, but outside this loop, outside this block, right, and inside this I have initialized my j value with 2, but inside of this yani innermost loop I have initialized my j with 3, which means ki if I'm going to print this j value here, what it will going to print? Guys, let me know in the comment section what it will going to print, as my scope of auto is just in the blocks only, within block. So definitely it will going to print my j as 3, as my j which is initialized with 3, that is only within the block, this block. I'm talking about this block. You can see this brace and up to this line, this braces. So this is the innermost loop, and definitely it will going to print 3 only. And if you're talking about this loop, this block, I must say this block, so what it will going to print? Is that 3 or is that 2? As my j value which is 3 right now, that is ended. Like if I'm coming and jump over this loop and now I'm here, so that will not going to print this 3 because scope उसका वहीं तक था कि j की value 3 थी, तो scope इसका इतना ही था. But now if I'm entering into this loop, यानी कि this one, so now it will just a minute, here is the loop which इसे पहचानेगा, and here is the loop जो इस 2 को चेक करेगा कि येस नाउ माई जे वैल्यू इज 2 नॉट 3, एज 3 की वैल्यू यही इसी लाइन पे खत्म हो चुकी है. एंड नाउ कम टू दिस पॉइंट. नाउ दिस इज माई लूप, and now I can say it is going to print 1 only. So that is completely depends upon the storage class what we have taken for the variable. But if you are talking about static or extern, so that we will come later. We have different examples for the static as well. Now talking about register, anybody has any kind of doubt here? Like the scope is only within the block. J value 3 थी, that is in the block only. अगर हम ब्लॉक से बाहर आ जाएंगे तो J3 नहीं होगा. बाहर आने के बाद J हमारा 2 है, एंड उसके भी बाहर आने के बाद विच इज द आउटर मोस्ट J हमारा 1 हो गया. सो इट विल गोइंग टू प्रिंट 1 इन द आउटर मोस्ट, देन इनर वाले में 2, एंड द इनर मोस्ट दैट विल गोइंग टू प्रिंट 3 ओनली. So I hope it clears to all. Then come to the register storage class. This storage class declares register variable which have the same functionality as that of the auto variable. As I have mentioned, कि auto register में there is not much difference. The difference is only in terms of the time, कि how much time it will take, right? So the only difference is that the compiler tries to store these variable in the register of the multiprocessor. If a free register is available, this makes the user of register variable to be much faster than that of the variable stored in the memory. So what it is saying ki if we are going to store my variable in the memory, or if I'm going to store my variable in the register, right? So that register part will going to execute in less time as compared to the auto case, right? Now it is saying if a free register is not available, these are then stored in the memory only. That means if we are going to declare my variable with register class, and if there is a free register is available, then only it will use register. But if it is not available, then it will going to store in the auto, that is in the memory, which is like having the auto case. It will going to store in the memory only. An important and interesting point to be noted, guys, that we cannot obtain the address of a register variable using pointers. Isn't it very interesting point here? Like I was talking about auto, कि we can access that auto variable using pointer, as register and auto both having the scope within the block only. But the concept in auto only, auto storage class having one concept which through which we can access that variable which having access in the block, but we can access that by using pointer. But if you're talking about register, that is not the case with register ki we can use pointers case. No, not possible. So that means we cannot access the register variable. Is that right? It is very important point. So make a note for that as well. Come to now external storage class. External storage class simply tells us that the variable is defined elsewhere and not within the same block where it is used. Extern, it completely name is telling us ki I am the extern, means it is not necessary to declare me in any particular loop. We can declare anywhere, right? Doesn't matter. So an external variable is nothing but a global, right? It can be accessed within any function block. Exactly. The scope is not within a block, but it is a global scope. We can declare, we can access anywhere, anytime. Also, a normal global variable can be made extern as well by placing the extern. That is very well. We have to use extern. Only then we can declare my variable as an extern storage class. This basically signifies that we are not initializing a new variable, but instead we are accessing the global variable only. Sometimes in upcoming programs, what we will do is we are declaring the same variable, same like in a function or outside the function, but we are declaring with the in data type again. That will make a huge difference in the program, and our output is completely different. So it is like magic has been done on the screen. Like we are expecting the value which has been updated with the new value. Like my if initially my a is 1, and after that I am updated my value of I, which is right now 10. So it will show me the 10. But if I'm declaring my a again, like I'm not just updating, I'm declaring again, not again initializing, even declaring again. So that will make my program different. A kind of output is also different there. So we will do this in next time or in the next slide. But first, let's complete the storage classes, then come to the function part, and then we will come to the questions. So extern, here is a program you can see here. Extern, I have declared anywhere. You can see, even I'm not declare my I, which having storage class extern in the main body as well. So you can see right here, ki, it is completely true ki we can declare my extern variable anywhere, right? So I'm just declaring here, and it will even then access my I and print that I. That's it. Extern having that such that mean only कि we can access my variable if we are declaring not in main body or not anywhere, just declaring by like according to our convenience. So that is the only extern the part of extern saying us. Static is like have a property of preserving their value even after they're out of their scope. That is completely agree. Like all all we are agree with this point ki this is the scope of the static is global. Hence, static variables preserve the value of their last use in their scope. Like if I'm deleting my static variable and still it can print the same value, that means it is preserving the value of their last use in their scope. उसके scope में, and scope is global, that means throughout the program we can say it is preserving the value of the variable. Doesn't matter कि scope खत्म हो गया है या program का जो भी है, so doesn't matter. Static में तो वो value remains same. So we can say that they are initialized only once. Yes, and that is the point. Key in extern, in register, or in auto, we can initialize it again and again or update the value. But in static, initialized हम कर सकते हैं only once and exist till the termination of the program. So that means we can't change the value of my static variable. Can we say that? Let's check in the programs. Thus, no new memory is allocated because they are not redeclared. Okay, so I am just highlighting this point. No new memory is allocated because they are not redeclared. As if I'm talking about my a value initially it is 5. That means my a is getting the value 5. So that address of a is something like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and kind of. But if I'm initialized my a value with 10, so the address accordingly will get changed. As my value change, address will get changed accordingly, right? But in that case, in static, if I'm not going to initialize my variable again, that means it will not allocate any other memory to my static variable. So, it makes some sense here. No new memory is allocated because they are not redeclared, right? So memory is the same which has been allocated to any variable which having static storage class type. So that is the thing about static. Global static variables can be accessed anywhere in the program, as in extern. By default, they're assigned the value 0 by the compiler. That is the thing only. Now come to this program. You can see right here, I have just declared my counter, which is a name to any variable, having in data type, and the storage class is static. So it is the kind of global variable, we can say that. Then come to the main body. Main body function may, while we have started with, like there is a while loop, and it said कि counter less than 10. That means that loop will going to repeat itself again and again till my condition false. So right now my condition is true. That means it is going to enter into the loop. And what next? It is showing me next, as it is a function basically. We haven't right now we are not used to with functions, so we can do this function in next time, as you should know the function first of all. Okay, let's do this function first. Let's complete the theory part. Yeah, this also have been related to the functions only. All right, first you can do these numericals, as these are related to if else only. You can start with these questions. These are very interesting and you might know the answer, I think. Okay, so start with the very first MCQ. Go for it, guys. Let me know the answer. You can check according to the loops, according to the braces, where it ends, where is the termination symbol, and what it will going to print. Let me know the answer in just a minute. You can just go through the program, that first my a is initialized with 5, and it will going to check as there is a if condition, that if my a equals to 6, which is not so, then just ended here. Like nahi hai to bas if ki condition aage badhegi nahi, just come to the next thing. And what is the next thing? If I'm going to execute this thing, or should I go for the next if loop? As you can see, guys, here is a termination symbol. That means termination, my if loop terminates here only. And what does that mean? My if statements, like if I'm talking about if statement, that should be in the loop only, that should be in the braces. But I can see here this symbol, which is which denotes to a termination. That means my if ended right now here in this line. That means I have to execute this line also, as it is not in the braces of my if. So as my a value is 5 initially, now it will be 0. Now it is 0. If this termination is not here, that means I'm not going to execute this, because condition is false. So I have to move further. That means just jump over this if loop, as condition is false. I'm not going to enter into this loop, so I'm just going for this loop if a equals to 5. That's it. But here is a termination. That means I have to execute this a equals to 0. So now my a gets updated. Now my a becomes 0. Okay, I'm storing ki my, yes, my a is 0 now. And you can see over there, if a equals to 5, then a plus plus. But my a is not equals to 5 anymore, as it is 0 now. So else you can say ki plus kar do, a plus equals to 2. That is the operator which denotes ki you can increase your a value by 2. So it becomes now 2. So yes, definitely Gori, you are right. My answer is 2. It will going to print 2 on the screen. Right? I hope it clears to everyone present here. It is very easy and interesting question. Like you have to take care of these silly, silly things, these termination symbol. So it is very important. And we can say it is completely, the empty type questions. So go for the next MCQ. Here I have initialized my a with 1, b as 0, and also it is of int data type. And I am going to print my c, which having value according to this relation. This ternary operator I have seen here, and accordingly I should get my answer. So let me know in the comment section what should be the answer here. You can just take care of the things what I have discussed earlier: postfix, prefix, is it should going to update first in the expression, or we have to deal with the previous values? So I'm explaining this question right now. As it is a postfix, so we are not going to update my value first. It is updating later, but first I have to use dealing with my current value, which is 1 as A, and B is my 0. So I can say ki, okay, I'm putting here, I'm just going to put my value here. That is 1 and 0. So 1 comma 0, what does that mean? 1 comma 0, is it any condition? Like conditions are like ki a is greater than 0, a is equals to 0. I'm not getting ki a comma b, any 1 comma 0, what does that denoting? Like I'm not getting ki what does that denoting. Are you guys getting? Like 1 comma 0, it is what? Tell me, what do you think it will going to, what it will going to print as C? Sometimes when we don't know ki what to do, as it is not also not a condition, so that means, and this thing after question mark, what it will going to return? If this is true, then B. If this is false, false means ki when we don't know anything. We also have done this kind of thing in my previous slides or previous lectures, that is in terms of if else. And also this ternary, any conditional operator, ternary operator is completely similar as if else loop. So there, when we come to know ki in if condition there is written only a equals to 3, which is not a condition at all, because condition is a equals to 3. Equals to denotes कि वो equal है. Okay, we can get the answer in true or false कि yes है, else नहीं है. But if it is written there a equals to 6, that means we are going to store 6 into a. But that doesn't mean कि this is a condition कि is it giving me in return true or false. So at that time only else will going to be executed on the screen. It will not bother ki what is there in the if statements. No. So similar case is there in ternary operator ki this, yani if it is true, then this thing will going to execute, else this thing. Else means else contain each and every case except true. So we can consider ki a will going to execute, that means it will return a. That means my C value becomes a now, and my a is not 1, as it is going to update for sure. So my a value is 2 now, and it will print me 2 on the screen. So isn't it interesting questions, like completely based on the logic ki why it will return this value to me, what is the reason. सो आई थिंक ये क्वेश्चंस जो होते हैं लॉजिकल क्वेश्चन, ये बहुत दिमाग को खोल देते हैं कि व्हाई दिस इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ ऑन द स्क्रीन, और अगर हम ये करें तो क्या स्क्रीन पे प्रिंट होगा. सो दीज आर वेरी मच इंटरेस्टिंग फॉर मी इफ आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट मी. So definitely it will going to execute for the else part, and else said कि a value को डाल दो c में. So at the end I can see my c value as 2. So it will show you guys 2 on the screen. So A is the answer here. Any kind of doubt? I can repeat it as well if you have any kind of doubt in this program, in this question. Okay, so I'm moving towards the next question. Question is, we have my A value is 1 now and my B value is 0. Again, it's a kind of ternary operator. You can see, again we have to print the C on the screen, but the condition is now something a bit different. So you can go for this. Okay, so I'm explaining it right now to you. All right. As my A is 1 and B is 0. So A% 2, you can say A% 2, that means 1% 2, and it will give you a remainder. and if I'm divide my 2 with my 1, I will get remainder as 1 only. And you can see on the screen if it is true and which is not true. Why it is not true? You can see right here, a% 2 returns me 1, and by default there should be a condition which is not equals to 0, right? And as it is not equals to 0, this will return me the false condition, yani ki false part. So you can say my C value becomes this one, isn't it, guys? So the answer would be 1 here, as I'm getting this is going to be executed, this A minus minus, isn't it? So this A minus minus, what it will return? First, it is a postfix, so it will going to compare or store my A value into C, and my A value is 1. That's why my answer should be 1 here. But my A gets updated, but here it is nothing like you have to print A, then it will print 2 as it is going to update, but after expression. So expression said ki before updating my A, you have to print or store this A into my C and then print C. So that will return me 1. A is the answer. Come to the very next question, which is like my A value is now 2, then my B value is 1, C value is 2, and it is related to the switch statements. We have discussed these earlier, switch statements. Alright, so as A equals to 2, and in my switch parenthesis, it is returning A, it is passing this A value into the switch statement. So if I'm going there, key, alright, my A value, but you can also see, guys, in this MCQ, if I'm talking ki A is 2, my A is 2 right here, but if I'm like taking here switch A, and the cases are like B, C, and here is the default part, and you can see ki if my any case is not going to match, then the default part is going to execute. But you can see, guys, here is the B, C, which is going to match with this A. No, as you can see, case B, which prints this statement, break. Case C, which is going to print this statement, okay, break. Default, which is print. But as I have to tell you, like these kind of question, you have to compare. Like here, I have just initialized my A value as 2, but you can see as it is a particular constant kind of, so we can't do this kind of thing here. So that will going to show me a compilation error, isn't it, guys? My A value is 2 initially, B value is 1, and C value is 2, and it is going to take here the variable as in case label. And I have mentioned in my switch, when we were talking about switch, key how what are the restriction in switch. We can't take my case label as a variable. You can see B is variable here, A is variable here, C is variable here, and it is going to take my case label as a variable. So it is showing you compilation error definitely, as these are the variable and we can't take these variables as my case label. So it is completely compilation error. It is against the switch statements, like switch का जो syntax है, so that is completely against it. So come to the next question, which is we have a variable A having float data type and initialized with 0.7. So if my A less than 0.7, then printf yes or else no. And also I have to mention, or I would like to tell you ki A, which is stored as a long double. Long double is a further modification of float data type. So here I can say कि long double में float जब भी store होता है, that will store in terms of long double. That means it is going to take that प्रिसीजन ऑफ 6 डिजिट्स, 6 डेसिमल प्लेसेस तक वो प्रिंट करता है फ्लोट की वैल्यू. Because it is, if we are initializing, that time we have to take just a point after decimal. But if we are going to print this float, that will show you on the screen as in long double terms, which is basically a 6 digits after a decimal. So, like I can say 0. 0.7, it would like a 0. 0.7, but storing like a 0.66666 something. So if I'm going for my actual A value would be, I can say 666 or 0.6. 3, 4, 5, and it should be like 5 or any kind of, but it should be less than 0.7. Right, it should be less than 0.7. It's not like कि 0.7 एग्जैक्ट होगा. एज आई मेंशन कि जब वो स्टोर होता है तो 0.666 इतनी टर्म्स में होता है एंड ये राउंड ऑफ हो जाता है. दैट्स व्हाई वी गेट एज 0.7. सो राउंड ऑफ करके ये वैल्यू होती है यहाँ पे. सो इफ द क्वेश्चन इज लाइक इफ माई ए इज लेस देन 0.7, yes it is less than 0.7. As I mentioned, it is storing in the long double terms. Long double, which is a data type, and I can say type modifier of the float. So in the storing term, it will show you this thing. So you can compare. Yes, my A is less than 0.7. That's why it will going to print yes. So coming to the next question, we have next question as kind of this thing. We have just a for loop. Just don't bother कि main body किधर है, वो एक just default syntax है. You can add by yourself. So just focus to the important for loop we have right now. You can see we have for loop and I have initialized my I with 0, and right now I have the base condition which is I less than 10 and upgradation always I plus plus. You can see your for loop statements. These are two statements in your for loop and which said कि I को बना दो I into 2, means I now becomes I into 2, and we can dry run this code as I is 0 initially. You can say कि I equals to I into 2. That means it is now 0 into 2, and 0 into 2 what? It is 0. So you can go for I minus minus. That means now my I minus minus हो जाएगा. I is 0 here. I minus minus, that makes my I minus 1. And you can see right here, it will update the condition of, it will update the value of I. After coming from the loop, my I becomes minus 1 here, and it will just move towards the loop again. It will upgrade my I, which is the increment operator. That means my I is minus 1. So it will now becomes 0. If I am doing plus 1 in my I value, which is minus 1. So minus 1 plus 1 becomes 0. So it will going to check the condition again. My 0 is less than 10. Yes, less than 10. You can again look at this point. Yes, my I is 0 again. Again you can check, okay, I into 2, 0 into 2, which again give me 0. Again it will decrement. I becomes minus 1. Again it will going to update. So minus 1 plus 1 again 0. That means my base condition is not working properly. As it is again, if you are going to the loop or reaches to the loop, that will again give me I0, I0, I0. So if it is not updating or reaches the false condition till the base condition falls, how the loop stop? That's why answer would be infinite here, as it is not going to update itself in the positive terms. And if it is not updating itself in a positive term, how the loop stops? So that's why it is printing this infinite, means this loop works in an infinite form. It will not stop. Now come to the 7th MCQ we have in the list. You guys can go through this question as well. You have a J value which is initialized with -5, and you can see the syntax over here. It is not return you compilation error, as it is the by default syntax of for loop, right? It is the by default syntax of for loop, which is basically returning you a default value. If I'm talking about default, what is the default syntax of for loop, I can okay, I'm writing here. I can say the default syntax of for loop is, here is a 4. I can say कि my variable which is initialized with here, like with -5, so that is completely you can take here only. Okay, which have been initialized here, you can just take here only before this semicolon, which is the default case. If it is pre-declared, then you can take the same value, but if it is not pre-declared, so then you can just by default take as 0. Key my, okay, my I is 0. Okay, I'm taking I because J is also here, so you will get confused. So I can just type the syntax, default syntax, which is int I equals to 0 has a termination, and if it is nothing right here, you can by default take I not equals to 0. That is the by default syntax. And yeah, similar upgrade condition will going to show you only. It is nothing like any default syntax. No, there is not any default syntax for the upgradation. It will show you on in the program only. But for the initialization and for the checking condition, base condition, we have an just a default statement, default syntax we have for the for loop. So if you are going with the same default syntax, my j is -5 here as it is pre-declared. That time we are not going for the default initialization. We have pre-initialization. So we can start with this. My j is -5 and it is checking the base condition that j is not equals to 0 and print j plus plus. That means it will first print -5. और अगर ये प्लस प्लस जे होता देन इट वुड स्टार्ट विद -4, बिकॉज प्रीफिक्स में फर्स्ट एक्सप्रेशन में डाल के देन अपडेट करते हैं. तो एक्सप्रेशन में अगर डालता तो प्रिंट करता प्लस प्लस जे, दैट मीन्स अपडेटेड वैल्यू जे की प्रिंट करता वो उस टाइम पे. बट हेयर जे प्लस प्लस में उसकी पुरानी वैल्यू प्रिंट करेगा. फर्स्ट स्टार्ट विद द इनिशियल वैल्यू विच इज -5, सो इट विल गोइंग टू प्रिंट -5 here. Then you can check, okay, here is upgradation which is by increment by 1. So -5 plus 1 returns you -4. It will check the condition ki is my j value equals to 0, or the base condition is j not equals to 0. That means if my j not equals to 0, yes, it is not equals to 0, so for loop still zinda hai. So we can come into the loop again, and now it will print you -4. Then similarly -3, -2, -1. But now in the case of -1, if we are going to upgrade, so -1 plus 1, अपग्रेडेशन क्या करता है, +1 से ही तो अपग्रेड करता है, अपडेट करता है उस वैल्यू को. सो -1 plus 1 which gives me 0, and as my base condition now terminates, my base condition becomes false now, and now my for loop doesn't work anymore. It stops right there, and my compiler or my screen shows the result as -5, -4, -2, -1. Up to 1 it will show me. So the answer is -5 to -1. That is the basically answer here. Or if you haven't understood anything in this topic, in this question, you can let me know in the comment section. I can see your responses. And if you guys have no doubt, so I can move to the next question. All right, so the next question is okay, I have next question in which the program is saying ki my x value initialized with 0 having data type int. And you can see guys here the syntax is kind of this, like it is printing nothing except these two semicolons. So I think it is going to show compilation error. I think so. But let me clear you guys this thing, as it is showing you semicolon to semicolon, which denotes that there are three particular condition which separated by these semicolons. Isn't it making a great sense here? That these semicolon, we have here three expression which are separated by two semicolons. First is initialization condition, then base condition, and then the updated expression, any upgradation part. So three expressions should be there which are separated by semicolon. Semicolon. I'm repeating, separated by semicolon, which denotes a termination for the particular line. So you can go for the same. If my x equals to 3, but I have initialized my x is with 0, so it will not going to come into this break loop. So that means it will going for this printf statement. So it will print plus plus x, as it is a prefix, so it will going to first increase the value of x with by 1. So my x becomes 1 now, and then it will going to print. So 1 is printing here, answer is a. 1 is going to print here. Now if, okay, I'm checking the a particular different case. If it is a postfix, that is x plus plus, at that time it would start with 0. As I have told you many times, it will, first updating, not updating, first it will use the current value like 0. So it would start with 0 and then going to update my x value. But as right now the condition is about prefix, so it will going to update my x value, then prints and start with my 1. So it will show you 1, then come again and it will going to upgrade, which becomes x becomes now 2. Again check the condition, okay, x is not 3, it is saying ki x equals to 3 but false. So that means come out of this if loop and print this statement. What it will print? 2 it will print. Again increase the statement, again increase the value of x. Now it becomes, what? Plus plus x. So it will show you 2 and now it becomes 3. And if I'm going to start with my 3 value, it is saying ki, okay, if x equals to 3, then what? Break kar do. Break means just come out of the loop, right? It will just come out of the loop. It will not going to further start with the for loop. It will just come out of the loop, right? So that means my for loop now terminates and it will show me the result as 1, 2 and 3. That is the point here. I think it's clear to all of you, as it is my 8th MCQ. Shall we start with the functions? As we have some, okay, just 2 MCQ we have on related to the if else loop. So we have also a less time, like tomorrow is the last class. So let's start with the functions. How to declare a function, how to initialize a function. So let me share my different screen. Just wait for a while. All right, so let's start with the function topic. All right, guys, let's start with this function topic. And then we can start with further different MCQs tomorrow. All right, as we have very less time, so we can start with the functions. All right, so functions, what are the functions and recursive, which is your unit 3 included in unit 3. So sometimes a program gets bigger in size. Definitely we come to the program and we have so many different types of statements, if loop, else loop, and also while loop. So at the same time, if we are not going for the loops anymore and we need some function, because there is a some work which is going to repeat again and again and again, and for that we have to repeat our code again and again. So to make that decrease, to make the program decrease in size, we can use functions. So what it is written here, function is a way to break our code into chunks so that it is possible for a program to reuse them. So this is the basic kind of the use of the functions. So what is a function? Function is a block of code which performs a particular task. A function can be reused by the program in a given program any number of times. Like we can call a function many times as the user wants. So it is completely depends upon the user how many times he wants to call a function. And function having contained some statements, if we want to perform these statements again and again for 5 times, for 10 times, so we don't have to make the code again and again. We can just call a function and the program itself runs. As we can start with void display, we have a particular name of the function. After this header file declaration or inclusion of this header file, we have to declare our function. So it is the basic syntax. We can say the declaration of a function as a function prototype. As we have three procedure, we can say steps. For the function we have three steps. That is the prototype, function call, and function definition. Function prototype just contains only one line which ends with this termination symbol, and we have to start with this function declaration in this kind. Like I have just taken a name which is completely user defined. That means it is not predefined in header file or any kind of library. It is just the thing what we have initialized, what user have initialized, what programmer have initialized. So I have just declared my function name as display, and it is the basic syntax कि function के साथ we have to use these parentheses. And the type of the function which basically denotes कि what it will return to the main function. Now what I have pending for the next classes, that is the return part, return statement, which is basically denotes or categorized under the jump statements. Like we have four kinds of jump statements, right? Like we have go to, break, continue, and the fourth one is return. So we are here right now on the return statement. I'm just elaborating this return, which is a jump statement in this function ki how we are dealing with this return. So if I'm just declaring my function, which is basically called as a function prototype, I'm doing this function prototype outside my main function. And at the same time, if I want to return any value from the function to my main function, if I want to return, then I have to use here int, because that should be some value which I'm going to return to the main function. And if that value is of int data type, then I have to take here int, and that returning value is that maybe might be of float data type. So it may be a float data type, and in that case I have to take here float. So that depends upon the returning value ki what I am going to return into my main function, that it will going to return, or we have to use that data type here only. Guys, like here if I am define my function here, definition having some statements. Definition, what do you mean by definition in English form? English language said ki definition is what? It is an elaborating form of anything. कि if there is a word eraser, so eraser doing what? It is erasing some, which is written by something which is written by pencil. So it is a particular statement which defining the function, which defining the eraser. So eraser की जो statement है क्या कहती है? Okay, eraser can erase the pencil. Eraser is a small kind of material or a kind of thing which can erase something. So definition of that eraser having some statement which define the eraser. Similarly, function, we can say function definition means there are some statements which basically define the function कि function कर क्या रहा है. So here function is just write this thing, this line on the screen. Hi, I am display. So that line will going to show in this on the screen. But here I am not returning any value. If I'm writing here in this braces, if I'm going to write key okay, uh, my a value is 3, my a value is 3, and I want to return my a into this main function. So at that time I have to write here return. Okay, I want to return my a value, and here is the termination letter, termination symbol. Just don't mind the writing, it is difficult to write here. Okay, this is the termination symbol if I'm going to write. So here return a means it is going to return some value which is of int data type. So I can write here int at the same time. Also in the declaration part means what we have been declared here, we have to use the same in the definition part as well. So that is the point here कि we have defined something and we are just printing in the function only. That time we need void because we are not returning any value. But if we are returning any value, like if I'm talking about कि here a is 3 and I'm returning here a into 2, here is a into 2. Okay, I'm returning a into 2. What does that mean? Ki I'm returning a into 2. That means 6 I'm returning into the main function. So the line where I have just called the function, which is the function call, and the syntax is like display. Here is the name of the function. Here is the parenthesis and then termination. This is the basic syntax of calling a function. And where we are calling a function, if we are going to print here, ki print my display function. All right, print my display function. So at the same time it will print this value, whatever has been returned into my main function, whatever has been returned into my main function, that has to be printed on the screen. So we can write printf. Also we can store this, whatever has been returned we can store into some variable as well. So in the same line we have to do this thing. Either we can just store into some variable. Okay, I'm taking a d. So I'm just storing whatever has been returned, I'm storing into the d variable. And then in the next line if I'm going to print my d, so that will print 6 on the screen. So that is the part what function is doing. First, here is a prototype, which is the declaration, which having declare ki the data type of the function, and data type of the function denotes ki what that function has been passing. If it is passing any kind of value, is it of main in data type or float data type? Accordingly, we have to mention here. But if it is not returning void, then we have to mention void. Void means ki nothing. Void means khali, empty. So function is empty because it is not returning any kind of value. It is not returning any kind of value to the main function. And if it is returning, then we have to store into some variable. Only in that case we get this value. So either we can write printf, so directly it will print the value. You can also consider it as key like 6 I have returned 6. So it will going to replace this calling with 6. So it will print 6, or else you can also consider it as key it will return 6, so it will going to store into this variable. So now d get 6 value. So that is the point here, ki how can we do any returning in the function. That's why the return statement, what it is saying, कि we are returning any kind of value, any kind of statement also we can return. So any kind of thing we are returning into the main function. That's why we can say it is a jump statement, as we are jump over other statements, over other loops. We are just coming to this line. So we are, jumping, most of the statement. Many statement we have been jumped upon and come to this display. So that is the point. We can say return as a jump statement. So I think it's clear to you all ki what in these functions have. Like here is a function prototype. Function prototype, what it is saying is a way to tell the compiler about the function we are going to define in the program. कि definition exactly उसको बाद में देनी पड़ेगी, but first we have to declare कि we have declared something, like we are declaring variable, कि we have just declare कि okay, my a variable is of int data type, but later we can initialize it with some value. But at least we have to tell the compiler कि okay, I am going to take this variable as of this type. As if you are going to any relatives home, so first you have to tell कि yeah, I am like मैं जाऊंगा आज, और ओके तो इस टाइम पे जाऊंगा, बट एक बार बता दो एटलीस्ट कि मैं आज आ रहा हूँ। उसकी डेफिनेशन कि मैं कब आऊँगा, कि कौन कौन होंगे साथ में, वो डेफिनेशन हम बाद में देते रहेंगे कॉल पे या थोड़ा टाइम में, बट एटलीस्ट यू हैव टू जस्ट कंफर्म कि येस, टुडे इज द डे व्हेन आई एम गोइंग टू योर होम, or I'm coming to their, right, your location. So that is the point. We have to confirm to the compiler as well कि yes, I'm the type of kind of identifier or function I can say, और मैं इस data type का हूँ, means मैं void data type का हूँ, so I am not going to return anything to the main function. So just एक हमने एक intro दे दिया कि yes, I am the one who is coming to the program and having some void data type, and name is like display. So that is the complete, a little bit information about the function, key what we are going to declare and the type. So here void indicates that function returns nothing, right? Nothing, it will going to return nothing. That means the void. So we can declare my function with void. Then you can function call. Function call is a way to tell the compiler to execute the function body at the time the call is made. Yes. So जब भी हम call करते हैं, that call should be in the main function. Like we have declared and we have any defined, that will not be in the main body. You can see here, main body is just this. This is the main body. And I have called my function in this main body only, but definition and declaration is outside the main body. So it is the syntax, we can say it is must. So function call is a way to tell the compiler to execute the function body at the time the call is made. So at the time जब भी जहाँ भी जिस लाइन पे भी कॉल कर रहे हैं, उसी लाइन पे अगर कुछ रिटर्न कर रहा है तो उसी लाइन पे हमें उसको किसी ना किसी वेरिएबल में स्टोर कराना पड़ेगा जो भी रिटर्न कर रहा है, एल्स वो वैल्यू कहाँ जाएगी। तो कॉलिंग के टाइम पे ही वो कॉल वाली लाइन पे ही रिटर्न करेगा, एंड थ्रू द रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट विच इज जंप स्टेटमेंट ओनली, with the help of return statement it can return by jumping all other statements. So function definition, this part contains the exact set of instruction which are executed during the function call. Means after calling the function, there are some set of instructions which are going to be executed. Yes. So definition is the kind of thing just after calling the function, it has been came to the definition of the function. So when a function is called from the main, it is important कि only main से call करा है. तो when a function is called from the main, the function main falls asleep and gets temporarily suspended, right? Because as I have mentioned कि main function क्या है, एक predefined function है, एक must है C programming के लिए, which is not a user defined. But user defined जैसे कि मैंने बना दिया अपनी convenience के लिए, like I want to add two numbers which is like 2 plus 3. So I have just taken a function like add. I have given a name add, and the data type is like void. I'm not going to return any value, but I'm going to work inside the function only, just inside the function. So that's why void. Right now, just dealing with the void, and then in the elaboration, I can start with the int data type to the functions. So right now, if I'm taking add function मैंने लिया and I'm going to add a 8 plus 5. So at that time, my जो main function है मेरा, that will just a kind of suspend हो जाता है वो, because after calling like main function से जब भी call किया, like here if I'm calling this display function, it will come to the void display. That time int main तो गुम ही हो गया, lost हो गया. And after returning, if it is going to return, then only we come to the main function and that line where we have called. Otherwise, we are just lost. We are just lost in the only user defined function. We are losing our main function. Now we haven't any address for the main function, but we are just lost here only. In display, we are just here only. But with the help of return only, we come back to the main. Otherwise, no. So what is mentioned here, during this time the control goes to the function being called, whatever the function being called, the control goes to that function, and when the function body is done, executing main resumes. Yes. तो एज फंक्शन का काम अगर खत्म हो गया एक बार, तभी हम मेन फंक्शन को रिज्यूम करेंगे, अदरवाइज नो. एज फंक्शन ऑल्सो हैविंग सम लूप्स विच डिनोट्स की फंक्शन कब स्टार्ट हो रहा है एंड व्हेन इट एंड्स. So after ending the function, only then we can continue the main function. Also, with the help of return, if we want to continue the main function inside the user defined, like if I want to continue my main function just after this line, so I have to print return. Only then it can go towards the main, or else it will wait for ending the function, user defined function, for this display function. It will wait for that, right? So here is a quick quiz which having a program like write three functions which prints good morning, the next is which prints good afternoon, which the next is which prints good night. So these are the basic programs we can do tomorrow class, as the time already like it's going to done, and class is going to end right now. All right, so we will like elaborate these types of function definition, function call, function prototype later in tomorrow class, and we will do some questions as well related to the functions, also related to the previous classes. So till then, just practice whatever we have done right now and also the previous concepts as well. As MT आ चुके हैं तो बस अब start कर दो पढ़ना. So we will do the next slide tomorrow. Till then, just stay safe and stay home and practice as much as possible. So till then, thank you so much. Good night. Bye bye.